Okay, in the last class we have seen superscalar architecture which differentiates integer and float. Okay, so now let's continue with that topic. One more example is power architecture. So I felt this as important, so I am taking this. It is a case study actually. IBM computer superscalar may not get in an examination, but I felt it as important so that you can use knowledge wherever it is helpful. Okay, fine. So here branch processor, this is important. Earlier it was an instruction processor, now branch processor. So meaning of branch processor is when an instruction tells about jump to or sequential execution. You have wrote a C program, hash include main, then common execution like printf and scanf. Then you have wrote one UDF, means user defined function. So what it will do, execution starts from main, one by one it will carry out a sequential execution. Once it identifies an instruction called UDF, it will jumps to the UDF definition which you have wrote outside and after main. So that is what called branch processor. Okay, so once a branch processor is identified, you can expect again the destination as whether from the jump to the jump is a fixed point or a variable. So please recall one important diagram which is called memory allocation of UDF in system software. You have wrote one three or four, I remember, four vertical boxes. In that, first box consisting of program on the top, second box consisting of program in the middle column, third box consisting of program allocation in the third bottom, means bottom side. So that means what, sometimes memory is continuously varied. Whenever you hit alt F9 or execution command, it will allocate in some memory. After you execute, if you hit one more time the command, somewhere else it might have loaded. So that means what, it is sometimes variable addresses are allocated, sometimes the same memory will be allocated. If same memory is allocated, the address can be predicted based on 32 bits is sufficient. If continuously it is a variable, that means it may be very far allocation also. If it is very far allocation, we need 64 bits of data to find out the address of destination from the jump to the jump. Okay, once you identify that, normal execution will take place and program execution takes place by fetch, decode and execution write back steps. Okay, here fixed point processor and floating point processor based on address. Okay, so if it is with respect to data, you can correlate this architecture with this. Fixed point means what, integer. One more is floating. Here if you think this as a data processor instead of branch data, so fixed data, floating point data. What do you mean by fixed data? Integer. Floating point data, float type of values. So fixed data is taken, see here, data will be here, take the data, perform the execution, and if you want you can store it in a cache. Okay, finally into the main memory. If data is not present from the, not supplied by the user, it may be present in the memory. First fetch, identify whether it is a float or integer. If it is integer, left side. If it is float, right side. So perform, give back the result. Like this the power architecture of IBM computer was working. Okay, so both are similar. It is also superscalar and this is also superscalar processor. So little different architecture they attained by their own development methodologies. Okay, so next one is I felt it is also important, that's why I kept it as 3 stars. Very long instruction word architecture. So this question has asked for in asked in the examination many a times. So please be very careful with this VLIW in architecture. Okay, so each will take little time for explanation, please be careful. Okay, so very long instruction word. So why the statement long instruction is given is it is lengthier than floating point processor. Okay, so where we should use such type of architecture is, okay, when data is very much long. You have heard about a double long, or you might have heard about in your computer 8086 subject dB defined in bytes, okay, dW defined in words, so those are okay. DQ, DD defined in double, defined in quad, defined in 10 bytes, DT, those all are treated as long instruction or long data types. Okay, so whenever we working on those, definitely we need to use VLIW architecture. See, one example I would like to give is, we want to write a program to calculate a distance between two planets or two stars. May not be possible, but two planets let's take, which is very long in terms of calculation. Okay, so definitely we need a more complex algorithms. So in those cases we cannot work on simple data like integer and float. Definitely we have to shift for high capacity data called as long, double, even sometimes more they may be working on. But one thing sure is we cannot work such algorithms by using basic definitions called as byte, then integer and float. Okay, so now you might have understood the importance of this VLIW architecture. Okay, so even in terms of when we want to explain atomic reactor operations, then also we are going to use long instructions. So wherever huge data and each data is of bulk, definitely we need longer processor. So that time we are using VLIW architecture. Okay, so can we call this as a only scalar? No, because not only parallel working, the data is also very high in size plus huge in quantity, hence it is superscalar, that is for sure. Next one, horizontal microcoding. This is little new word. Okay, so horizontal microcoding means two or more processors, not only two, we can expect as more than 10 or hundreds or thousands also, hundreds or thousands of processors trying to execute on same data, but all are executing independently, but all execution on same data. That is called as horizontal microcoding. So you can imagine Amazon has might have launched one attractive one deal, like purchasing one mobile of a very popular brand. So they might have given maximum discount. What happens that time? Most number of users try to work on the same data. Okay, that time what happens? Sometimes your request to buy that product may end up in waiting state. So how it decides whether the request given by a particular customer should treat as an order, should treat as a waiting? It is done by horizontal microcoding, because Amazon works parallelly. That means I can use in my computer, same time somebody can use in his own computer. Okay, through my computer I will reserve the product, through his computer another person will also reserve the product. Parallelly what we are doing is, we are doing same type of work on same data, but we feel that we both are independent. My I mean the order what I am placing for same brand of a phone, is not getting affected by other person's request. So that is called as horizontal microcoding. The extended version of this is today's data mining, data warehousing and all. Okay, so old days it was a horizontal microcoding, now it is the different name. Okay, here you can see okay, that is what definition of horizontal microcoding. Next one is long instruction. So long instruction means what? Bits of each code will not be smaller, it will be in terms of hundreds. Each code will be in terms of 100 bits, hundreds of bits. So definitely each code is more in size, such more number of codes. Why it is more number of codes? Because we have wrote a program in RISC, means in number of instructions will be more. Each instruction is more, that means each instruction is also more in bits, such high number of instructions. So totally what happened? Data is very bulk. So that is what meaning of, in such a situation we have to use VLIW architecture. Next one, multiple functional units are using parallel to share large set of registers. Here please remember register as data. So what you mean by sharing is commonly utilizing a data. Okay, that is what the definition of sharing. Multiple functional units means here to calculate distance between two planets, we cannot use only one engine or one algorithm or only one procedure or one user defined function. We should have multiple user defined functions working on different parameters. Okay, so each function working on different parameters, and also we cannot say one function after another. They might have they might be executing in at a time. They should execute in at a time. So here what happens, same amount of data which is fetched by sensor is given for different UDF. Those UDF will utilize the data given by sensor and they will keep on calculating. They feel like they are executing separately, or they have exclusive data set, but really speaking their data is shared among maximum number of registers, and each register is working on its own work, means its own calculation part. Such n number of functional units will be there. Those are called as multiple functionals. So that means one common data by a register is shared among multiple functions or functional units, and those execute parallelly. So that is what feature of VLIW architecture. And since multiple functional units executes parallelly, operations will also get executed parallelly. Okay, based on what degree of execution is M. Okay, here I have mentioned what do you mean by degree of execution, which is M. Okay, 3. Here it is 3. Say for example, if it is a superscalar of maximum, we can expect here as 10, maybe very fast, because 10 executions, 10 fetch, 10 decode, 10 write back at a time means very highest speed processor. Maybe it is in terms of hundreds nowadays, because it is a vector superscalar processors. Okay, fine. Now we have here a typical VLIW processor with a degree of M equal to 3. You can expect these questions in your examination. Okay, VLIW architecture explanation. So first you write 4 points and their individual explanation, then you take this concept as a example. Okay, here very simple it is. Same instruction. Here we don't have 3 fetch and 3 decode, like how I explained in the previous. Okay, see here one main memory, it will take data, it will copy data into register file. Register file means register bank, you can think R0 to R12, or you can think like AX, BX, CX, DX in 8086. So if instruction is load store type, in the first point it will execute. If instruction is floating point addition, please remember here addition, in this execution, floating point multiplication, floating point division, floating point subtraction. So for everything we have separate here you can see load, add, multiply, branch, etc. Hope you can find here add, convert, multiply, divide, load, store. These all will be, you can imagine here that those activities, to a box, two inputs and one as a result back. So like this you can imagine. Okay, fine. Here once the data is stored in register file, an instruction is identified. What is the instruction type? If it is a store load will execute. If it is addition subcomponent will execute. Multiplication subcomponent, subtraction subcomponent, conversion, rotation. For everything we have, for float everything we have separate. For integer it is a common like ALU. You can imagine here ALU, that's it. For branch and shifter separate, but in arithmetic itself we don't have separate like a float add, float multiply, float divide. We have common for integer called as ALU, which will perform arithmetic as well as logical operations. For branch it is separate. Okay, generally branch belongs to both type, float also and integer also. All branch are same type that we have calculated here. Okay, so now this is important. If instruction is consisting of more number of operators, like please remember, see m is equal to m, don't take m, here it is m, z is equal to a plus b plus c plus d, or a plus b plus c. Okay, here z is equal to a plus b plus c. Here what happens? Earlier only a plus b we took because it is a binary equation. Okay, but now a plus b plus c and store the result in what? Z. So that means what? 3 fetch, that is a b c, only one execution. That means what? Both 2 pluses it has to execute in single instruction. See, the complexity has increased. Earlier what happens? A plus b was executed, that result temporarily considered, for that c supposed to add. But here it is not the case. Don't wait to get the result a plus b first, then for that result getting a c added. That is not. Here performance should be enhanced. For that reason, okay, z is equal to a plus b plus c equation I took a reference. Here not only a plus b, we have to work on c also, that too parallelly. So here execution will be more because 2 pluses, that's why such operations also possible in VLIW architecture. Okay, here fetch doesn't need 3 fetches. Fetch a separate, fetch b separate, fetch c separate. If I say fetch in VLIW, it is a, b, c all in one instance. Now decode, where the cursor I have placed, decode in the sense, decode of a plus b also plus c should be decoded in same instance. We should not take 3 separate decodes like this. Here fetch a, fetch b, fetch c, decode a, b, c, execution of a plus b, then for that result plus c, like that. So that is what if I perform superscalar. In VLIW what happens? If I found a fetch, all operands should be fetched. If we mention decode, all participant or all operands should be decoded. Execution, then definitely we cannot perform plus c unless we finish a plus b. Okay, because what? In the equation a plus b plus c, it is a from left to the right association. Since we have 2 pluses which are same priority, we have to perform left towards the right association. You remember associativity. So we have to finish first between AB, whatever the result I will get, then I have to perform that with the C. Okay, here what happens in very first rows execution is A plus B. We will get a result. For that we will add C. If we have D, A plus B plus C plus D, then for A plus B plus C, for that result we have to add D. Okay, like this imagine. So what is the advantage of having VLIW architecture is we can perform z is equal to a plus b plus c plus d in one instance. Okay, one instance in the sense by fourth cycle end we will get a plus b plus c plus d result in z. What happens if we execute a plus b plus c plus d in normal superscalar is, see, workload will be 3 because, sorry, 4. Fetch a, fetch b, fetch c, fetch d, decode a, b, c, d, execution a plus b first, get the result, for that add c, for that add d, like that it will be splitted. Finally store the results in z. Okay, write back will be only one, you can delete these two. Okay, that time only one write back will be there, because all answers we are writing in z, so one box we will get, we will not get about two boxes. Okay, so whereas in VLIW architecture what happens, only one box for write, because what final answer where we are writing is z, which is a single. So why we have multiple executions which are shaded are a plus b separate, for that get the result, add c, for that new answer add d. So now you can expect fetch of next. So here what happens, if you write an instruction for this, z is equal to a plus b plus c plus d, y is equal to l plus m plus n plus o, like that we can perform many number of works within a short time, 7 seconds. Each second will take 3, 7 second means 3 plus 3 6, 6 plus 3 9, 9 plus 3 12, so total 12. Here 3, okay, plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 6, okay, by the time of 6. But what is the problem here is, how many fetches we have are separate fetches for separate instruction, means separate data. Here in VLIW one fetch, that's it, we will get all the data. Okay, here also one fetch, so total workload where it will be, it will be less is, total workload will be lesser in VLIW architecture rather than superscalar. Okay, fine. So what are the three phases of VLIW pipelining? Decoding is easier. Why decoding is easier? Because we have fetched all data in single instance, a b c d, all we have fetched in one fetch, so we can expect decoding will be easier. Why we can say code density is better? Code density is better because if we don't have VLIW architecture, how to write z is equal to a plus b plus c plus d is, m is equal to a plus b, n is equal to c plus d, z is equal to m plus n. So what happens here? 3 instructions, temporary 1 a plus b, temporary 2 c plus d, final answer z is equal to temp 1 plus temp 2. So here 3 instructions it will become, but because of VLIW final answer z is equal to a plus b plus c plus d, so you can expect code density is good. Object and code compatibility we will get. Okay, object and code. So what is importance of getting a compatibility between object and code is, we can implement any concept in object oriented concepts. Okay, so why important it is to implement any project in object oriented is, we can execute in real world. That is what the main feature of OOC. Okay, object oriented programming. So here VLIW, the distance between 2 stars or 2 planets, it's a real world entity, so that is possible to execute only when we have object oriented programming method. So since the VLI processor supports, VLI processor's code supports object, so we can write any real world problems solution using program and also using VLIW processors. Since code should be compatible with object, we can implement any real world project, real world problems in VLIW processor. Okay. Okay, now next set of processor we have is vector and symbolic processor. This is a direct theoretical. Okay, so here it is symbolic processor characteristics. Please try to remember this table. Okay, here vector and symbolic processors. As you know, vector processor means it will do little more complex operations than the previous superscalar and VLIW architecture. It is designed to perform vector computations which consisting of large array of operands. Large array of operands means data will be very huge in size to process. Okay, so that is what the meaning. So whenever data is very bulge or very high quantity, definitely we should go for vector processors, and they will execute in two architecture. One is register to register architecture, one is memory to memory architecture. So if we are using if you want to use a vector register architecture, then instructions must be smaller in size. If you have longer plus memory related instructions, we should choose vector type memory architecture. Okay, here you can see this is memory architecture operations. This is register operation instruction types. Okay, here the small bubble indicates you are working between or you are working on two vector type of data. Okay, so this is operation. If you got a M, that indicates memory. If you got V, that indicates vector. If you got some S, that indicates you are increasing magnitude of that vector. See here, vector 1 with vector 2. So we have studied many vector operations. Okay, here vector 1 with an operation with vector 2, which results into third vector. Okay, it is binary vector operation. One vector operated with one scalar, that is called as scaling of that vector. Just like throwing a ball with minimum force and little more force, that is we can relate. Two vectors, if they resulted into scalar, that is called reduced. So we can expect if two vectors are facing with each other, just like a vehicle accident, so both are coming from opposite direction they got, so that is called they will reduce their okay, after accident they will stop, that is called as reduced. From vector they reduce to scalar. So now and memory fetched onto the vector, that is called as vector load. Vector has been loaded with value from the memory. So like this we have unary operations and binary operations. Binary in the sense two values, unary in the sense single value. Okay, so here we can expect above this as two vectors. Here it is only one vector. Only one vector is 1. Okay, unary vector v1 changes to v2. Unary vector has reduced its lost its direction. It entered only in the field of magnitude. So that is what. Here it is register to register because no memory related activities. Okay, so next one is memory to memory architecture. So between two memories locations we are working. So first memory location, second memory location, we did some activity, so we will get an answer which is going to store in new set of memories. So there we can think it as memory to memory architecture. So one scalar is multiplied with a memory stored data, which results into new memory related operation. So new answer is also memory related. One participant is also memory. Hence we can expect this as memory architecture. So only memory is updated, say for example deleted or created, so that we can think it as only memory participant. Between two memories we have performed operation and we got an array of result, that is what k. Okay, then array of result, so that is also final results in memory. Okay, fine. Next one, this is one of the this type of pipeline execution. It is a scalar which we have studied in our normal. See, fetch, decode, execute, write back. Next fetch, decode, execute, write back. With respect to this, we are trying to explain successive instructions. Okay, one by one instructions. Here what happens? normal execution, you can think this as your CO concept, what we have studied in our old days. Normal pipelining: first instruction fetch, decode, execute, write back. First instructions decode, next instructions fetch. First instructions execute, next instruction decode. First instruction write, next instruction execute. Like that it will continues based on different number of working. Okay, it dependent, or you can think it as it is a normal pipeline. Here is vector pipelining. Okay, here vector pipeline. See, now why we have multiple executions, why we don't have multiple fetch, multiple write, only we have multiple executions. See, once you get a data, since it is a vector, definitely single fetch means what? Multiple data we have fetched, where we have justified that here you can see one fetch means A fetched, B fetched, C fetched, D fetched, like that. So here also one fetch means we have fetched many data. One decode means we have understood all data we have decoded all data. Now why we have execute only is, it is not a simple operation. Calculation of distance between two planets is not a simple like plus. It includes lot of complex operations. Okay, on same set of data which is collected, which is decoded, we need to execute more number of operations to get one final shape in the sense what? Final answer. We cannot say between two planets it is 600 kilometer or something. Okay, it is in terms of light years. We cannot even say by simple arithmetic like this to this, or scaling like how we plot one building on a 2D paper. We cannot do that because it is not so easily measurable. So what happens? So many calculation will finish, they will give the result. Based on that result, again some other calculation will give. Finally we will get some result between two planets. This much is a distance in terms of light year. Definitely we will get a result, but calculation is not simple like 2 into 3 or 2 plus 5, something like that. Okay, so here vector pipeline execution means complex operations. Please remember these diagrams. Okay, so the last one, characteristics of symbolic processing. See here, what we have studied is vector processor. Now symbolic processor, please remember, it's a knowledge representation. How to represent that? This is simple, your DA and DS recall. That's why I have kept the table directly using list, relational database, script. So store the data or present the data, whatever you know, through a good method. Good method in the sense what? See, day-to-day life, how to we will share a knowledge using Blackboard. Okay, Blackboard in the sense discussion, classroom discussion and all. Sometimes nowadays we can call it as online. Okay, so scripts, database. So that is what? One. Common operations. What are the common operations we will perform on a computer data? Search, sort, pattern matching, filtering. Filtering in the sense remove unwanted, consider only the selected, like that. Okay, memory requirements. Large memory with intervention access pattern. How you are accessing, with password, without a password, whether you are accessing little endian first then big endian, or the opposite, in which method you are using addressing modes. Those all considered as memory requirement. Next, a symbolic processor attribute is communication pattern, whether it is communicating interprocessor communication, or through the size and destination. Many your CN protocols, TCP, IP, UDP, so many. Those all are called as communication patterns. Next one is properties of algorithm, whether the algorithm you are using to calculate something is deterministic, non-deterministic, it is parallelly executing a processes or not, like that. Okay, IO requirement, whether user should give the data, or there is a robot, or there is one sensor which will collect the input. Should the data be, once the calculation is done, answer should it be given to the user, or it is going to collect by some of the actuators. Those all are discussed with respect to symbolic architecture. So architecture features, whether it is fully knowledged, dynamic balancing, load balancing in the sense, if sometime the algorithm is heavily working, heavily utilized, sometimes it is idle. So in both the times it should be active. So looking into the scenario, it should respond. It is not like during overload time it should not respond with it should not respond, or it should respond with the wrong answers. That is also not correct. It should balance its load. Okay, hardware and support the garbage collection. Garbage collection in the sense unwanted objects, files, or unwanted results will be generated. Those should be cleared on time. So in your compiler design you have studied garbage collection as a subchapter. Okay, these all are the features of symbolic processors. Okay, fine, thank you.